be Spellman, Independent POV, and I'm with a guest. Her name is Kim. How we doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing fine. Um, I believe we met on Twitter, and you're a Black nonprofit and biz podcast.
Yes.
Um, can you give
hmm
me a brief bio of that?
Yeah, sure. So I started a nonprofit actually back in 2019. It's called Black America Cares. And essentially what I do is assist people who are in a rock and a hard place. I'll say it like that. You work, but because you from social services, and sometimes you just can't make ends meet. That was what happened to me. You may need an extra $200 to pay a utility bill or to get groceries or whatever the situation is. And because you work, like I said, you can't get assistance from a lot of these places. They want you to be like broke, like have no money before they'll help you. So I
Right.
decided to become the help that I needed at one time. And that's why I started Black America Cares. Now, when I started it, I was getting a lot of requests. The name in and of itself is kind of vague. And so I
Mm,
would get a lot of calls and requests for services that we didn't provide. And I didn't want to just turn people away. So I would look for other nonprofit organizations that would be, that were doing the work that the people were asking for. And in that research, I discovered thousands and thousands of, literally thousands of Black led nonprofit organizations. And it was just astonishing to me. And then I searched around and I saw that there really wasn't a podcast providing this information. So that's why I started. Initially, it was just for nonprofits, but then I also discovered that there are a lot of businesses also that we need to be out here supporting so that we can keep money circulating in the Black community. So I also started interviewing Black business owners. And so that's how the podcast came about. And it's doing well. And I really love being able to get information out there so that people that's looking for assistance, whatever city or town they're in, there's somebody out there that has what they need. So that's how the podcast came about.
okay, cool. So are you active on Twitter? Cause what's going on with reparations with Marcel? If you know him,
hmm
like what's like I mean, what's your point of view of that? Before we,
Yeah, I am. Um, I love it. I mean, I did a podcast episode with Brother Marcel and really wanted to get to know him and hear his side from him directly as opposed to hearsay. I believe in reparations. I think reparations are old, but I also strongly believe that Black folks need to get some type of financial literacy. Like, let's say if the government decided they wanted to give all Black Americans $20,000, most of us are not, if we're honest, we're not really ready to handle and manage a lump sum of money like that. And 20,000 is a lot. It's kind of a lot and it's kind of not a lot. I mean, but for many of us who've never had a chunk of money like that at one time, we really wouldn't know what to do with it. And it can be
right,
gone in a matter of really months. And you right back
right,
where you started. So without knowing how to properly, invest that money or do
yeah,
something so that we can earn more from it, it would really just be a waste. They be going out buying clothes. Just I mean, look at what happened with the stimulus check. Most
yeah,
people they don't have anything to show for it. They just spent it and it's gone and that's that.
Right.
So, you know, I'm all for reparations, but more importantly, I think people need to start looking now. The Black community needs to start looking now at really what would they do? Like sit down, write out a plan. How can they take that, hypothetically 20,000 and turn it into 100,000?
Right.
Yeah. So that's my position on that.
Right. Right. But let's jump into it. So the title of this podcast is about is our childhood is our child welfare system broken, or is it ripping apart the black families by design? What's your point of view on that?
Well, I absolutely believe that it's by design. And I was a welfare recipient at one time. I'm writing a book about that now. I went from welfare to making six figures. And so I want to be able to help other people do that. So when I was on public assistance, one of the requirements was that I back then, I don't know how it is now, but back then I could only have a certain income, of course, in the house. I had to disclose information about the child's father so that they could go after him to make him pay child support. Um, and there really wasn't anything in place to helped me to really get off of welfare. I had to advocate for myself. But if you go back, let's say in the 1960s, when civil rights was at its peak and discrimination against black people is still at its peak. But back in the 60s with the whole civil rights movement with Dr. Martin Luther King and all
Right.
that, it was really, really tough for black folks. Black men weren't paid fairly if they did work. And so oftentimes the woman, the mother, she had to choose between getting on welfare and having enough money to feed her kids or having her man in the house. And
Right.
if a man was in the house, the woman did not qualify for welfare. She was instantly cut
Yeah.
off. And one of the things that I equate that to is I think I mentioned to you the movie Claudine. So Claudine came out is with James Earl Jones and Diane Carroll. And I actually think that you can find it on YouTube for free and you can watch it to really for those who are really young. That movie came out I think in the 70s. And so it really shows how it was. They made this woman choose between whether or not she would be with her man or get welfare. And a couple of the scenes are really interesting. During that time, they will have a caseworker come to your house, and the caseworker would inspect and look around and kind of see there anything um, if there's any indication of additional income in the household. So James Earl Jones was like he was buying her, little odds and ends like men do. I think he bought her a toaster. He bought her a new iron. He bought her a little rug, a little TV. So every time the social worker was coming to see her to, do their inspection, the kids would start ripping and running, hiding stuff. They had to hide the toaster. They had to hide the new iron. They had to hide everything that was any type of indication of income increase in the house. And so I really do believe that. I mean, what difference should it make if a man is there or not, especially when they're not paying him enough to take care of a whole household anyway?
Right.
So, absolutely, it was by design then, and in a way, is by design now. Now, I think men should voluntarily take care of their kids. But this
Right.
whole thing with, taking their driver's license if they don't pay, locking them up and all of that stuff, come on now.
Right.
It just it's all a setup to me.
Yeah. I wish I had the article that was saying this because, like, the article, when I found out, I thought that was interesting conversation, and that's not how you would say publicize if you're not, because people like are going on Twitter, Facebook, but it was like the main page articles. I found it on my uh laptop, and I thought that was interesting, and and that's why I posted that tweet and try and see
Uh-huh.
what were thoughts on this matter. And what do you
I'm
say
looking it up
about,
now.
huh?
I'm looking it up now. Imma see if I can find it.
Yeah. What do you say about when when men are not able to see their offspring, but yet the woman still get a check?
I think that's wrong too. I just here it is, how the welfare state destroys family. No, that's not it. Um, but do you know the exact name of the article?
It's the exact name.
Is welfare helping
Yeah,
or destroying?
is welfare system broken or is it ripping apart the black families by design? It's like the exact name.
Okay, is welfare system broken or what was that? Is it this
Welfare broken or is it ripping apart black families by design?
is it ripping? Okay. Um, but to answer your question, that's kinda hard to say. Like, I don't understand women who try to interfere with, um, a man's ability to see his children. I have never understood that, and I have a problem with that. I just did a podcast episode on that too, with a guy who that's what his nonprofit does. He assists fathers who are, having challenges in that situation. Should he
Okay.
pay I'm just trying to think and choose my words carefully. I think he should pay only if it will prevent him from getting in trouble with the court system. You know what I mean? But
Okay.
if he's not involved in the court system and she is hindering his ability to see his kids, then no. Support for what? It
Right.
has to be a team effort. You have to work together. And, you know, she whatever she's going through, she cannot let her feelings interfere with this man staying away from his kids. That hurts him, but what they don't realize is it hurts the kids even more.
Yeah, I got the article now.
Okay.
It says like our system doesn't protect children at all, says Dorothy Roberts. It punishes black families for being poor. How do you
Mhm.
feel about that statement?
I agree. I
Okay.
agree because again, if somebody can't get a job
Mm-hmm.
through whatever, I mean, I live in the DC area, right? So there are a lot of opportunities here. I've never lived in places like Mississippi or Alabama, or some of the southern states where I hear it's more challenging to um, get um, employment. So in situations like that, if you are someplace where it's more difficult to get skills and more difficult to get employment, then yeah, it definitely works against us. And that should not have anything to do with a man being able to see and take care of his kids to the best of his abilities. In other words, if he's ordered to pay a certain amount and he can't because he's not adequately employed, then they shouldn't hold that against him. They should work with him. But
Okay.
from what I can see, that's not the case. They will, again, from what I hear, I don't know this for a fact because I haven't been on welfare for a minute. So I don't know all of the details of exactly how it works. But from what I know, if him not being able to pay results in um, taking away his driver's license or locking him up, those are two things that directly affect this man's ability to work.
Right.
How you expect for him to work if he doesn't have a driver's license so he can drive to work? Or if he
Right.
gets locked up, he's not there for 2, 3, 4 days. He is, not going to work and he could lose his job.
Right.
So in those circumstances, yes, it's ripping apart families.
Also, it says like it's designed to police the most politically marginalized families in the nation, and it's always been that way. What do you think about that statement?
I believe that too. I mean, the whole thing. Okay, let me say this because I don't want to also seem like black people just have this victim mentality and we can't do this and we can't do that, right?
Right.
So there are those um there are two types. There are two types of people. There are the people who are just shiftless, and regardless of what opportunities are before them, they're not going to take advantage of it. They want the easy way out. They don't want to, and this isn't just black people. Let me make that clear. Because
Yeah.
you, you have these types in every race. There are people that they don't want to do nothing. They don't want to work. They just want to sit around, be lazy, live off of people, live off the system, try to do whatever they can to qualify for disability, all of that type stuff. Okay. Then you have those who are really trying, working hard, going to school, trying to get the skills that they need so that they can increase their income, get a better paying job and increase their income and all of that. So
And
if
then
you
you,
go ahead, I'm
oh,
sorry.
and then you got the my thing with jobs is like they be in positions where they gotta barely even a raise. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Mhm.
Like it just been stagnant. It's like
Yeah,
I feel like well, I won't say I feel. I think like if you can't give that person a different position or more accountability, you might as well give them a raise for where they are. You know what I'm saying? It's
that's
like,
true.
but it's like they instead of giving them a raise, they're giving them like a free lunch or give
Mhm.
them towels, little gifts. It's like forget the gifts and stuff. Just give me more dollar for my time. You know what I'm saying?
I do. I do,
It's
but in situations like that, then it's up to that individual. Cuz I know for me personally, I'm not going to stay at a place that's not recognizing my talent
Right.
and not willing to pay me. So where one won't, one will, right? So it may not be working out in the way that you feel. You slowly, quietly upgrade your resume and you go out there and you find, because there are people out there who will pay you your value, and then you want to make sure that you're valuable too. Make sure that you bringing something to the job to make them really want to give you a raise, and after you've done everything you can on your end to show, look, y'all are not paying me what I'm worth, then you just gotta pack up and go somewhere else and find somebody who will.
Right. And I look at it, it's like that for a lot of Black Americans that say that it's either that or with like I know another article that says that from Business Insider that businesses are practicing not to hire Black men. So it's like they're using this, I guess, quote unquote woke mentality
Mhm.
where they will probably hire a Black woman over a Black man, you know?
Mhm.
And
Yeah, I
and I guess they're trying to be, we trying to be woke, we trying to be sensitive. It's like, okay, to Black people, but you're doing this gender war along with what's already happening in the Black community by not just picking Black women, I mean, not Black men, but you're picking women over Black men instead of just picking them equally, you know?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
they like a lot of people saying like, "Oh, Black men not trying, they lazy." No, not when the article is saying Black men are applying. It just you got businesses are just not hiring them. you know,
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Um Again, a lot of what happens to us, I don't want to sound like I'm not aware that racism is out there, because it is.
right?
But I honestly believe that at the end of the day, it really boils down to what we believe about ourselves. And
Yeah,
this, I'm gonna give you some of what I'm writing in this book, right? Pa- for a long time, so I got off of welfare, right? Got into this program after I begged my social worker. I hated staying home. I hated welfare. I was like, I can't do this. I don't see how people do this. I gotta work. And how I ended up on welfare, all that stuff is in the book too. But so I got into a program and got a job in the federal government. Everybody in DC worked for the government. And
hmm
so um after like 7 years, I didn't advance. And I was sitting at my desk one day thinking, what is going on? Why is everybody else getting promotions and I'm still sitting here in this same position? And
right.
I had to be honest with myself, right? I had to be honest with myself. And so at the time I worked for this little Asian lady, and she was cool. She was cool with me. I was cool with her. And I asked her, I said, I don't want to stay stuck as a secretary for the next 10 or 15 years, because there are a lot of people that's their whole career. I know some
Yeah,
people that, they've been a secretary for the government literally for 30 years. I didn't want to do that. So I went to her and I asked her, um, what can I do to advance? What do I need to do? And she said, are you really prepared to hear this answer? You're not gonna be upset. I said, no. I said, no, just be straight up with me. What's wrong? What am I doing wrong? And she said, Kim, you have terrible habits. You're a good worker, but you have terrible habits. You come to work late. When you get here, you sit and you talk with your friends for an hour or two. You go to lunch 2 or 3 hours. You do good work, and that's the only reason why I haven't fired you, but you're not professional. And when she said that to me, I was just messed up. So I had to look at myself. And so sometimes some of these brothers, they have to do that too. And again, for the ones who are doing the right thing, the ones who are professional, the ones who are showing up on time and, doing the work to the best of their ability, if those people are racist and they not trying to pay you what you're worth, then you're going to have to go find somebody who will. I
Right.
admit and I agree that they do tend to hire women more and faster. I see that a lot. But there are a lot of brothers that are out here that's got it going on too. And I would find somebody, if I was a guy, to look at what they're doing, if they seem to be moving up and getting paid and getting opportunities, hook up with them. Be a friend. Hey, man, what you doing? What do you know that I don't know?
Right.
And kinda work that way. So, I don't wanna give white folks that much power. I say all the time, "You ain't stopping me from doing nothing I wanna do, racism or not, cause where you won't, one will." That's
Right.
that's that's my take on it.
So what do people who have never come under that sort of scrutiny need to understand about how it works?
Um, you mean what with the job
Uh,
or
welfare.
what do they need to understand?
Yeah.
I think as Black folks, we have to unify, right? We have to um, not allow the system to tear us apart. So, again, I'm going to use myself with my daughter's father. I really didn't want to give them his name. I really didn't. But if I didn't, then I wouldn't have gotten the assistance that I needed at the time.
Hmm.
So I had a conversation with him, and before I even turned to welfare, I said, "Look, I'm struggling here. You know, can you just help me out? Just buy her school uniforms every season and money for her lunch. And in that way, I won't even have to get on welfare." And he was like, "Okay, all right, yeah, that's fair, that's fair. I can do that. I can do that." But he didn't do it. And so I had no choice.
Right.
I had no choice because this again, I I gotta take care of me. I gotta feed this baby.
Right.
And the fact that he didn't do it, I didn't that wasn't my business. I don't know. All I know, I really honestly tried to work with him and I it didn't work out. So to answer your question, I think that the mother and the father, they need to have a conversation before you even get caught up in the system. Try to work something out with each other. Try to see if there's a way that y'all can work together, even if you're not together in a relationship anymore. Be cordial enough and mature enough with each other to try to do this so that he doesn't end up getting jammed up. And, you know, she putting him in the system and he having to go to court and now he's resentful and, talking kind of sideways to her and then she get mad. And it's just a horrible cycle. And that's how it all starts and that's how they want it. But I think if the two of them can figure something out together I think that would help keep the system from coming in and making a difficult situation worse.
Okay. Is it to be fair, call it family policing instead of child welfare?
What is family policing?
I
Well,
mean, during this article, it's the way they frame it, or the author frame it is, he calls child welfare family policing instead of child welfare.
um, I, I mean, I guess in a way it could be. I mean, again, if you go back and look at that movie Claudine, that's basically what they were doing. They were coming to her house and, looking around trying to see if it was evidence of a man being there. And instead of making sure that the kids were fed, the kids were decently clothed, if there weren't any signs of abuse or anything like that, I would think that that would be the main concern as opposed to worrying about whether or not a man was there. Um, so to a degree, yeah, because I think even in Section 8, if you live, I never lived in Section 8, so I don't know all of the rules, but I think um, if a woman is on Section 8 with her kids, I don't think a brother can move in there. And why? Why
Right,
not? What difference does that make? If he's there and he's contributing to the household, even if he's not contributing a whole lot financially, just having a male presence, having a male figure, especially if somebody's raising boys, I think that's a beautiful thing. But if they have a problem with that, then again, that's a another indication of how the welfare system rips apart families. Because I mean, everybody don't necessarily want to be married, and then even if they are married, that's my husband, but he don't make enough for us to be able to afford a house. So we need to live in Section 8 housing for a minute. You mean to tell me that my husband can't live with us? It just got to be
right,
me and my kids.
right,
So, and I could be wrong. I mean, I don't know if people will be able to make comments on your Twitter, but if that's not how it works, then I'd like to know. But last I heard, that's how it works, and that just makes no sense to me.
right.
So yeah, they policing. The only thing they need to be concerned about is making sure those kids are okay. They're in school, they're fed,
The
they're
only thing
they're
they need to be concerned about is making sure those kids are okay. Right.
they're healthy,
They're
all of that.
cool, they're fed. Also, do you think the enslavement of black people and the genocide native people are tied to the origins of our child welfare?
Hmm, that's a good question. Um, I never thought about that. Initially, I would say no. I don't see the connection.
Okay.
I don't see the connection. Do you feel like that? That is?
It could be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, um, I'm just. It could be. There could be some tide of it,
Mm-hmm.
form of enslavement. I mean, it could be.
Yeah. I don't know. I would have to take a deeper look at that to see the connection. I mean, slavery impacted us in so many other ways. Um, and it wouldn't surprise me though, because honestly, I've never studied that, and I've read a lot of stuff. I've never really studied the actual origin of welfare, like who came up with it, what made them come up with it, uh, all of that. I never really studied it. Why they decided to do that. So
Okay. Oh,
that's
go ahead.
interesting. I was gonna say that's interesting. I'm gonna look into it when we finish our conversation because now I'm curious.
um, do you think there's a potential today for talking about abolishing it?
No,
Oh,
especially now with the the effects and after effects of COVID.
hmm.
So many people were impacted negatively, and between unemployment and welfare, I think that that would be a huge mistake. I hear that they're supposed to be stopping school lunches, which I don't understand. Did you hear that?
No, I didn't hear that. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, they're supposed to be stopping free school lunch, and I just think it's devastating because sometimes that's the only food kids get,
Yeah.
depending on the circumstances at home.
When people talk about the abolishing or even just more family preservation, there's an automatic response that it will lead to more abuse, more child deaths. Um, do you think that's true?
Yeah, I do. I do because if you're not able to adequately feed your kids and take care of your kids, it's it's frustrating. I mean, they don't ask to come here, right? And they're looking at you and depending on you to provide for them. And when you can't, oftentimes that leads to frustration and anger. And when you're frustrated and you're angry, the first thing you're going to do is target that anger and frustration toward the kid. Because it's like, well, if you weren't here, then I wouldn't be having struggle with this responsibility. And it's not fair, but that's just the reality of it, you know? Or you got people, I know I remember a case where some kids were staying with their grandmother, and the grandmother didn't have money to get them breakfast. So she went to the grocery store and was stealing the food. And
Oh,
fortunately, cops caught her, but instead of locking her up, they heard her out. She was like, "Look, I got my grandkids with me. I don't have no money to feed them breakfast." So he took her shopping and bought her some groceries and stuff, and then other people heard about the situation, and then donations just started pouring in, donations of food and money and all kinds of stuff. But that's just one person, and she got desperate. What about the other people that's out here that's struggling? So yeah, it's definitely it's gonna lead to more drug abuse. It's gonna lead to all kind of stuff.
right.
Hmm.
Um, how should we think about these issues while facing the likely end of Roe v. Wade and how Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett and Samuel Alito have seemed to argue that the existence of adoption precludes the need for a right to abortion?
Hmm. I don't know the numbers of adoptions specifically,
Hmm.
but I know it's already an overload on the system. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of kids waiting to be adopted. And again, given the way things are now, people are struggling with their own biological kids.
Hmm.
So, who's going to be willing to go out here and adopt? I mean, people want babies, yeah, but oftentimes babies aren't always available. So, you got 5, 10, 15 year olds waiting and nobody will take them.
Right.
And that's I'm not crazy about abortion, but I understand it. I really
Hmm.
understand it. And um to force somebody. put somebody in a position and force them to have a baby that they are not ready for is going to wreak havoc on this country. I think it's the biggest mistake they can possibly make. Not only that, but women will be forced to go back to doing things that they used to do in the old days, going to these jackleg doctors and ended up being mutilated or even end up dying trying to illegally abort a baby. So I just see a horrible outcome for everybody, for the kids, for the mothers, for our system, for everything. It's the worst mistake they could possibly make. And I really don't
Mm,
think they keep trying to claim that black folks abort all these babies. It ain't us, it's them. And if I could be so bold to say, I think a huge reason for this push is because white folks' numbers are dwindling. They are quickly becoming the minority in this country. And so I think this whole abortion thing is really centered around that. They want to try to get a handle on that. But it's nothing you can do.
all right.
Mhm.
I think Black Americans and even Latinos gonna be the two majority.
Mhm. If we're not already.
Right.
I've been saying I mean, how you gonna be 13% for the last 40 years? Come on now.
Yeah.
That just doesn't make sense. But, they tell us what they want us to believe and we run with it.
Right.
So, yeah.
But yeah, thank you, Kim.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate you. Hopefully we can do another one in the near future.
Definitely. Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
hope you enjoy Miami, you know,
Thank you. Thank
and
you.
how people can reach you in the internet.
Well, I have I have 2 Twitter pages. So I have a personal Twitter page. It's elect lady no, Kim writes for you. That's the Twitter. That's where I talk a whole lot of trash at. And then I
Okay.
have the podcast page, which on Twitter, which is the podcast for us. Um, I'm on Instagram, under the podcast for us, and then I have Black America Cares, Facebook group page, the Facebook regular page, and then that's on Instagram, and then that's on Twitter as well. So, anybody that goes to just one of those internet sites, they can find me on all the other ones. And then I have a website, um, blacknonprofitsandbusinesses.com, and then blackamericacares.org. So that I think that's the easiest way. Just go to the website and they'll be able to find me.
Okay, y'all heard it. And until next time, guys, y'all be amazing.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I hope I shared some insight. And y'all, again, you want to really see how the system did black folks, check out the movie Claudine. It's entertaining also, but there are a lot of subliminal messages in there that really show how the welfare system impacted us. And it has a happy ending, so I like that part too.
Okay.
Okay.
I definitely want to check that out. But we out, people.
All right. Take care.